Have you tried layering pigment inks to enhance embossing? In this video, I show you how. Hello there, Michelle Short here with Terrific Tags with Michelle. Today I'm using the benefits of layering up pigment inks to my advantage. I'm going to enhance embossing with embossing folders. So let's get started. First of all, I have die cut the largest of the kind of fishtail banner tag from the Terrific Tags die set 4 times from white cardstock. On 2 of them, I'm going to add ink blending. So this is the Glacier Caves Pigment Ink bundle. And I'm going to use, like I said, the properties of layering up pigment inks to my advantage. The great thing with pigment inks is that because they've got that pigment property, you can layer light colours over dark colours, which is really nice, which you wouldn't be able to do ordinarily with dye inks. So I'm taking a large ink blending tool here and I'm just adding the lightest colour towards the top. I do lose quite a bit of this in the end, but for this technique it's quite good having dark colours. So the first colour there was Persian blue, and then this is sapphire. And these are just so pretty, these blue colours. I really love them, and they do blend really nicely. It did take me a little while just to blend the 2 colours in between. Now I don't know about you, but some days I'm really good at ink blending and other days I'm not, so this was one of those days where I struggled a little bit, but I really like the deepness of that blue. Next, I'm going to work on the yellow tag, and this is the Summer Afternoon Pigment Ink bundle, and I'm going to use Warm Sunshine at the top and Caramel Toffee at the bottom. The great thing about pigment inks is that they work on a variety of surfaces such as paper, fabric, wood and more, and they become permanent once heat set. I did leave these tags to dry themselves and then they did dry perfectly fine, but they do take a little bit longer to dry than say dye inks. So for this tag, I have to say my ink blending improved slightly, and I do prefer the ink blending on this one than the other one, but never mind, they both worked out nice in the end. So I'm going to take the Cheerful Blooms 3D embossing folder and I'm going to add the yellow tag inside. And the great thing about embossing onto tags or any other shape is that you can move the tag as many times as you want before you run it through your die cutting machine, so that I can get that image perfectly where I want it. So I'm just taking my time here to line that up, and then I can run that through my die cutting machine, and that's just going to give the most beautiful impression onto that tag. And we are going to enhance it a little bit later, but it is really beautiful as is. With the pigment inks, because I didn't let them dry, there is some transfer in the inside of the embossing folder, but that cleans off easily with stamp cleaner. For the blue tag, I'm going to use the Decorative Florals 3D embossing folder, and this has got such beautiful kind of swirls and things like that on the folder, and we're going to use that again to our advantage because that's going to cover quite a wide area on this tag. Again, run that through my die cutting machine and it's just absolutely beautiful as is. But like I said, I'm going to use the properties of the pigment inks to be able to add lighter colour on top. So this is the Arctic pigment ink, and this is quite a bit lighter than the other colours that I've used. And I'm just really softly running that over the raised areas of the tag where the embossing is. This is quite helpful in this instance because I've covered quite a large area of the tag, and so I'm just being really careful here to try not push down too hard. It looks like I'm pushing down hard, but I'm really not. I'm being very delicate. I kind of swiped over the tag to start with, and then I'm just pressing down lightly, and I think doing this gives a really nice kind of, it ends up looking a bit like velvet, really kind of soft and pretty. And I'm going to enhance that again a little bit later with some iridescent shimmer ink spray. and that kind of gives it that velvety look. But as you can see, that's really enhanced that embossing, and you can see those flowers and swells and leaves really easily. So I'm going to do the same thing with the yellow tag, and this is the buttercream colour of the Pigment inks. Now there isn't a huge amount of difference between this lightest yellow and the yellows that I've already added on, so the impression is not going to be as much as the first tag. It definitely works better with darker colours, this technique, but I still think it turned out really pretty. Because this tag has got quite a lot of open area, there's not as much embossing. I'm using a foam blending tool here just because I want something a little bit, basically I'm trying to be as careful as possible to not get the lighter pigment ink onto the tag, but in the end I do go in and go directly to the paper with it, and I did find that that worked quite well. But I was being a little bit hesitant to start with, a little bit worried what was going to happen. So here I end up picking up that ink pad, and again I'm just pressing really softly to pick up the really kind of top layers of that embossing. And as you can see, although it isn't as kind of in your face, I suppose, as the first tag, it is still really pretty, and it does bring out that embossing really nicely. To add a bit of sparkle onto the tags, I'm using the Iridescent Shimmer ink spray. This is so beautiful. It just gives the loveliest shimmer onto anything you spray it on. So I'm just spraying that really quite lightly. It's very difficult to see on camera, unfortunately, but in real life this just adds the most beautiful shimmer, and it does kind of meld with the pigment inks and gives a really velvety soft look. I'm going to work on my sentiments now. This is the Statement Flowers stamp set, and I'm going to use this sentiment here at the bottom, and this is for the yellow tag. So it says sending sunshine and warm hugs, which I thought would work really nicely with the yellow tones. And then this is the Build a Flower Bearded Iris stamp set, and I'm using that sentiment there that says hello sweet friend, and that's going to go on the blue tag. So I'm going to stamp those onto some black cardstock. So I'm just prepping that with an anti-static powder tool and removing the excess powder, and then I can ink up the sentiments with embossing ink. This is a sticky ink that the embossing powder is going to adhere to. So I'm just adding the pure white crisp embossing powder on top. I like to apply it, tap off the excess, and do that a few times just so that I get a really nice coverage of that powder. And then I can ink set those until they're completely melted. And I like to heat set from the front and the back. And then I can just remove the excess powder with a cloth, and then I can cut those down into strips. Next, I've taken the two tags that I had extra at the beginning of the video, and I'm using these to add onto the backs of the embossed tags. This is so that if I want to write a message on the tag, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to write it onto the back of the embossing. So I'm just being really careful here. The ink is still a bit wet at this stage, so I'm trying to be careful not to kind of push my fingers in the ink too much. Ordinarily, I would let them sit to dry for some time, but for the purposes of the video, I needed to kind of keep going with the tags more than I would do in real life. So next I'm taking some Instant Dimension foam tape, and I'm going to add that onto the back of the sentiment pieces. So I can just use some tweezers and just press that down onto the tag, and do the same thing with the blue tag. Although I used the same colours for the pigment inks today, you could definitely mix and match different colours. So like you could have the blues at the bottom and then maybe add some green on top, or the yellows you could add pink on top or anything like that. I think that would be really great as well to layer them up. If you've done this kind of thing with pigment inks before, do leave me a comment and let me know how you got on. I think it's a really cool technique. I'm just adding some enamel dots onto the tags here from the Essential Black and White Enamel Dot set. So I added white onto the blue tag, and then here I'm just adding some black ones onto the yellow tag. And then I can add some twine through the top of the tags, and I'm just going to tie that in a bow at the front. And then once I'm happy with the bow, I can cut the tails of the bow a bit shorter. And so that's the tags finished for today. I really love how that lighter pigment ink just really enhances that embossing. And these embossing folders are just so pretty that you really need to enhance that embossing as best as possible. Links to the products that I used will be in the description bar on YouTube and also over on the Altenew blog. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Hello crafters, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching!